start coming about. Basically, you'll start seeing detectives coming because that's the detective synergy they're looking for in the Emerald Sapphire build. But Jordan's, we saw some of the other combo pieces.
Yeah, we'll see which one. And what's interesting about these builds is what people like to say is that the traditional 2-4-6 build has really strong lines, but can be a little inconsistent. And so what you're doing when you go to the detectives build is you're sacrificing, you're getting a lower ceiling for a higher floor is the way that they like to describe it. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see JD take that route here, a little bit safer. And when you're doing a 12 rounds of Swiss, a little more consistent. But yeah, super interested to see what Jordan's on if he's on the same thing.
Exactly, because I mean, what we talk about in this game is kind of we have the aggressive style decks with want to be so fast in the beginning. We have our mid-range decks and then our more control decks. So this Emerald Sapphire deck has been very control heavy, but when we saw the detectives come in, it gives some of that mid-range capability where you're going to have some board presence. Like you said, it's going to provide more consistency in a room where you don't know 100% what you're going to get. But we do see Basil. He is a detective, so we are starting a detective party. But we also see Clarabelle, and she is here. She is a clumsy guest, and she is here to basically start the party. Clarabelle is extremely important in this deck.
Yeah, Clarabelle, JD establishing that on turn 1, and on the other side we have a detective. It's Basil. Now that doesn't mean this is the detective build. Sometimes you run him for other reasons, but Basil, both players with a turn 1 play here. JD establishing that Clarabelle early. That is the shift target for the other Clarabelle. One note though, oftentimes when you're playing the 2-4-6 pack, you protect that Clarabelle and shift it later. If you're on the detectives line, you can't do that because you don't run the 4 ramp usually, and so you have to put that Clarabelle out there. She's a little vulnerable as you wait for that shift.
She does. She looks vulnerable, a little scared here, but speaking of little scared guys, we have Tipo, who is a growing sun, who has been a consistent ramp card for ever since he came onto the scene here. So he's going to go ahead, and like we've seen with Sapphire decks, it is almost every deck except for one is going to want to go ahead and do that ramp. And like we said, double ramp is one of the hallmarks of the more control style deck. So this is going to be a big tell here as far as if they're able to hit that double ramp on Jordan's side. But he's going to go ahead on turn 2. He's going to hit the first one.
Yeah, does he have the ramp?
That's like, it's such a critical question.
Sapphire,
right?
Like, do you have the? Are we going to get to see a game?
Yes, and the thing is I mean, I have talked to a couple players who said you can miss ramp and be okay. Now, during this matchup, I think you could maybe miss a ramp and probably stabilize if everything else goes right later, if you have the combo pieces. In this case, he does. So congratulations. That's always the first test of these two decks.
Right, sailing their Azurite Sea here. So we are going to draw a card, ink a card, and then pass over to JD, keeping up ink parity.
Yes, and that parity is extremely important because when you're against a deck that is doing that ramp, which is where you're trying to go ahead and get your ink count up higher than your opponent, you need to stay in lockstep because that's how the power is going to build. In this case, he is taking advantage of his extra ink that he has, putting down his 1-drop, because if he does have that ability to ramp again, then he can shift into that Clarabelle light on her hoofs, which is going to be a draw engine for this deck, which is very important for the top end.
Very important for the top end. And one of the cards both these players are going to be looking for, usually nowadays you run 1 copy of Bend to My Will, maybe 2. It's a card that we're going to be looking for because it is kind of a mirror breaker card. The counter to it is Clarabelle light on her hooves. If you get a Clarabelle established, the Bend to My Will not quite as good if you discard your opponent's hand and then they just manage to redraw everything back up to you. So one thing that we're looking at throughout this matchup is these players trying to find that mirror breaker card and play it later on.
Exactly, and there are some heavy uninkables. I call them heavy because they're expensive and they feel pretty heavy in your hand when you have them and you can't play them. So we're looking at cards like Bend to My Will. Under the Sea is another one that people might be bringing if they're afraid there's a room full of emerald dogs. And then there also is a Hades, which is something that not every player is going to put in their decks. That's Hades Infernal Schemer. We saw him in set 1 and set 9, and he has been a classic control card that does that spot removal. So we're going to be seeing if they have some of those heavy ones. We haven't seen it yet, but right now the other play is they're also kind of looking for the tools they need to do the combo. It's one of the rare combo decks. So what kind of cards are they looking for if they want to get that ever so popular combo that this deck can pull off?
Oh, you're talking about the Clarabelle combo?
Well, okay, 2 combos.
The other combo.
Yes,
oh, yeah,
it's malicious.
I'm sorry,
it's
malicious.
mean.
It is.
And it's scary.
Very scary if you're playing something with a wide board. You know, as you've said before, we've lost Be Prepared in rotation. So players said maybe I can build a Be Prepared.
Yes.
I put a couple cards together. So malicious, mean, and scary came out, and a lot of the Emerald players said, "Oh, this is delicious." And I see the perfect card to pair it with, and that is Prince Philip. So malicious, mean, and scary, a card that can put 1 damage counter, place 1 damage counter on all of your opponent's characters, and then Prince Philip banishing all damaged characters. So it's a combo that is kind of run rampant, and it's one of the reasons that you run this deck is to provide you access to that combo in addition to Clarabelle, which is a powerful draw engine. And look at that, it's a double ramp, Katie.
Yes, so I mean that means that he is winning the race here, getting access to some of the ability. Now, this one, basically one of the downsides of ramping is you're emptying your hand pretty fast. You can see he has one card in hand. So the reason Clarabelle is so vital is because you're kind of saying, okay, I'm going to use all my resources, I'm going to ramp. I need to draw a card. To stay in this game, I need to draw a card. So he needs to keep that Clarabelle. Now, in this case, it's a mirror, so it's one of the most comfortable times because there's not going to be that early spot removal. So that Clarabelle's feeling pretty good upright. So in this case, that is what the plan is to go ahead and shift that Clarabelle, which I'm pretty sure he has in hand. But we'll see what JD does to go ahead and thwart that devious dastardly plan here.
I mean, if JD doesn't manage to, that would be a really powerful play, as you pointed out, getting that Clarabelle shift and drawing. Let's see. It is. Oh, JD is going to go first,
yes.
but not as good.
Heavy on her hoofs here because she is light on her hoofs. But yeah, this is a card where you're able to go ahead and draw at the end of your turn. You can see how many cards your opponent has and then draw up to that hand size. So in this case, 1. But this is something interesting. What just happened here?
What a powerful play here. This is the combo that you like to see. You're Welcome is a card that will bounce a card back to your opponent's deck, and they get to draw 2 cards, which feels bad, except if Clarabelle's drawing you bonus cards based on your opponent's hand size. So Jordan was sitting with 1 card in hand. Clarabelle wasn't going to do much, and then JD not only clearing off that shift target, but sending 2 cards and getting some bonus cards out of it.
Yes, that is the beautiful thing here. Your Welcome is one of those wonderful cards that can be used in a myriad of ways. He can remove items, he can remove locations, and he can go ahead and say, no, I will be drawing cards. And I think we just saw a Cinderella dream come true in that hand, which does kind of show that Jordan's plan is to play the long game here. So we see some pieces, we see his own You're Welcome, so maybe Revenge is a dish served fresh and hot on the next turn. But JD did exactly what he needed to do there. He got his card draw, he got his shift, so now, and he got rid of that Clarabelle. So he checked it off. He said, check, check, check.
Yeah, he did the thing. And Jordan was setting up a very powerful turn there now, kind of on his heels. And I mean, he can send that Clarabelle back, but will be unable to establish a Clarabelle on his own. There's no Singer on the board for that You're Welcome. So having to kind of rebuild here. Meanwhile, JD is going to punish Jordan for any extra cards that he draws. Jordan will establish a Clarabelle, though.
In a stunning thing, I gasped because I saw Judy Hopps. I'm like, detectives, because that is such a hallmark, because this is a card where you're able to, when she quests, you can draw detective cards, or you can draw 3 cards, I believe, and you can go ahead and keep a detective in your hand. So it's fascinating because that's one of the hallmark cards here of the detective deck. But in this case, he has to go ahead and pay full cost here, 7 ink for Clarabelle. Shifting is such a powerful mechanic in Disney Lorcana because it allows you to get a discount, basically, and your character is ready. So in this case, he does have to pay that full 7 ink for that Clarabelle, which feels not as good.
Not quite as good. JD here going to say, you're welcome again. You're welcome to send that Clarabelle back to your deck. Jordan's going to draw another couple cards. And again, this is something that players love to pair together in this color combo, getting that Clarabelle out, and then you're welcoming for a little bit of board control, a little bit extra card draw. This is the combo you love to see.
And I thought I saw him inking You're Welcome, so that's a 3rd You're Welcome. I'd be saying, I don't think you're very polite. I know You're Welcome is a thing you say when you're trying to be nice to somebody.
You mean that?
Yeah, I'm like, you're good. You don't have to say You're Welcome, but how Maui is it to say You're welcome? You got 2 cards, and I think Jordan's saying, I'm good, buddy. I have my own draw engine, but JD's doing exactly what he needs to do the control side of this deck, keeping that board presence, and now here we have a little bit more ramp.
Yeah, this is Donald Duck. It'll allow him to ramp a little bit extra. So one of the things that you do in these detective builds is you give up that Cinderella, and in exchange you do this ramp a little bit later on. So it does get you some extra ink, but you can't do it at the same tempo that you can with the Princess package.
Exactly. So Detective Synergy is on display here. That was one thing I asked several players. I said, how do you make that decision? And we are seeing why is because you do have access to a little bit more different activity. I'm hoping we'll get to see the more control heavy where you're just saying, you know what, you do what you need to do over there. I'm going to wipe your board anyway. Don't worry about it. In this case, we have not seen any Prince Phillips at the board. We are just seeing poor Jordan not be able to keep a single bovine on this board.
Yeah.
But
those cows have not stuck around.
Yeah, he keeps, someone close the fence, please. The cows keep getting out. But in this case, he still has access to a myriad of cards. He's deciding what his game plan is because the problem is JDZ still has his Clarabelle on board. So when you're playing against a deck that has a Clarabelle on board, number 1, maybe get rid of Clarabelle. But number 2, if you can't do that, you want to empty your hand size. So you're wanting to go ahead, ramp, ink, do whatever you can, so that way JDZ is not also having an indulgent hand size as you. In this case, Vision of the Future.
Yeah, Jordan here with the Visions of the Future. This is a card which will let him look at the top 5 cards of his deck, select 1 to keep in his hand, and I'll send the rest away. This is one of the better cards in all of Lorcana, and when it came out, Sapphire players were very, very excited. In previous metas, it wasn't uncommon to see players dig through like their entire deck by stringing these cards together with Develop Your Brains and other of these like peaky type cards, but here, Jordan finding what he wants and sending everything else away.
And it's a comfy card to play because at 2 ink, at this point you've ramped, you have a pretty indulgent amount of ink. You're trying to establish what you're going to do to control and stay in this game. So in this case, he's putting some damage on there, which tells me that maybe he might be playing a full Kosh Prince Philip, Vanquisher of Foes, because it does a little bit of removal. This isn't the number plan A. He's doing a lot of plan Bs. We're seeing Jordan do a lot of plan Bs with this deck.
And then we see one Prince Philip go into the discard pile. We are going to establish a Clarabelle and shift that Clarabelle. So shifting effectively like ramps you by 1. It reduces the cost of the character just by 1. So Clarabelle, instead of being a 7 cost, is basically a 6 cost if you play them both in the same turn, and that's what we've seen here. And it looks like Jordan will benefit a couple cards there, managing to dump a significant part of his hand that turn. So it's the Cow Wars.
It is Cow Wars, which is coming to a cinema near you. But yes, like you said, emptying hand is critical here because he has seen JDZ just have a resplendent, succulent time, just picking as many cards as he wants each turn. So that Clarabelle lives another turn to go ahead and be light on her hoofs and dance around this board. And he still has a healthy board, so I'm interested to see. I can't really see his hand so much. Every time I look at him and see that detective outfit, it's hard not to keep looking at it. But my goodness, I love it very much. And here we go. Another aspect of control, but it's a little bit tempo control.
That's true. This is a card all the way back from set 1. Mother Knows Best, sending that Clarabelle back to hand.
Oh,
Bend to My Will.
Okay.
Bend to My Will coming out. JDZ saying discard your entire hand. And now, you know, that Clarabelle, not terribly great for JD, but having managed to clear off Jordan's Clarabelle, look at this. He is firmly in the driver's seat here. Jordan's going to be top decking, looking for answers. This feels just, like such a powerful move.
You know, one time I did talk to JDZ and I said, oh, you know, it's so fun when you play tournaments because you get to talk to people. And he said, don't talk to me at a tournament. I'm going to be good. But what do we have? Is he rebuilding this board? He is. He's playing this Judy.
It's the Judy Hops. Now, Judy, the Detectives package is good for what we call low resource games when your hand size is low and you're top decking because it gives you like a card draw. And Judy Hops coming down here, and on play, Jordan will be able to look at the top 3 cards of a deck, select a Detective to keep, and then Judy will do that again upon questing. So it is a card draw. It is card draw in the mid game here. And really excited to see it.
Exactly for him, because I mean, what he's trying to do is to build back from that dastardly deed that the detective JD just did to him. So, yeah, very, very, very fascinated. And it's something where you do have to pick how many detectives you are going to put into the deck. I mean, it looks like you've done some interviewing on this, so some sleuthing yourself. So, I mean, is there a sweet spot of what percentage of detective decks, detectives?
The jury is out. Players run anywhere from like 12 to 20, but usually in like the 16 or 17 range. And in this deck, if you have 16 or 17 detectives with 1 in hand and you do the math, you have about a 60 to 70% chance of hitting a detective off that Judy. So it's not insignificant.
JDZ is not here to make friends.
No.
He just played a Basil there, an undercover detective going ahead and bouncing back to hand. That Basil is painful in 2 ways. First, he comes down, bounces a card back to the hand. Then, when later he quests, he's going to make you discard. When you only have 1 card in hand, that feels pretty bad. Now, Jordan's been able to try. He goes ahead and plays Judy again if he chooses to. That might be a little bit of card draw. But then he knows that anything he draws, Basil might turn sideways. So, Jordan is in an extremely uphill battle because he has had a masterclass on how to control your opponent with this detective decks on JD's side.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what Jordan has in response to here. JD just counting his ink, thinking about his next turn here. That Basil, a card that pairs very well into this deck because it does, there are many cards in these Sapphire and these Emerald Sapphire lists which give your opponent's card, but you give them a card, you perhaps give them a you're welcome, and then you immediately make them discard and keep their resources low. So Basil, a great combo piece to work in here.
Exactly. I mean, Basil himself, he is the great mouse detective. So the detective theme is just very fascinating. I love seeing these synergies pay off. We've seen the racer synergy. We've seen the bit detectives. We had some dwarf synergy. So it's just very exciting to see the detectives. It's something that we heard whispers of going into this tournament. Is like, are you going detectives, not detectives, detectives, not detectives? And it had me and Liam messaging furiously, being like, detectives, what's going on? But here we go, detective engine here. We're going to go ahead and draw those 3 cards, and we do see 1 detective, I believe. There's
That's that Basil there, similar to JD's, that undercover detective. The other is a malicious mean Scary and a Tipo, so 1 option there. But what this allows you to do too, no, was that not?
Well, it might be a May, so it could be a situation where he knows he might have to get rid of it.
I may have seen it wrong. Or choosing not to keep it because trying to keep his hand size low to not give JD cards. But I may have also misseen what it was, but anyway, curious sending that away. And now we'll establish we'll establish that Judy Hopps, and that'll be able to draw later. And Jordan, I think, with an empty hand, so possibly the game plan here, knowing he won't be able to play at this turn, just kind of keeping the resources low. But what it does allow Jordan to do, too, is see that Malicious Mean and Scary sent away and kind of do the math on what's left in the deck.
You did see him pause there for a second and kind of say, okay, because like you said, if he goes ahead and keeps it, that Basil is going to absolutely quest and make you discard it right away. So it's kind of one of those like, well, I can do it. I am deploying Judy. Now Judy next turn, if he has 1 card in hand and then quest with Judy, then suddenly you have 2 cards. So you want to get that that critical mass. So maybe he just said, you know what, I don't need it. But here we go, JDZ just keeps ahead and adding just really a dozen detectives on board here. We have 6 characters, and it's looking good for him.
Yeah, there's a detective agency out there right now.
Yes, he has started his own agency.
As well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. JD's Gumshoe service out there on the board. Pursuing lore now, trying to push his game plan. JD is going to go all the way up to, we'll see how this resolves. I saw how much was on board, but all the way up to 13, 14, 15.
That is game on board for anyone keeping track at home. So it is time for him to, Jordan's going to look at his, he has about 10 ink here, I think, if I'm counting right, and he needs to pull off a board wipe combo where he needs to have somebody sing Malicious Mean and Scary and then play Prince Philip, and that is doing it with 1 card. Prince Philip, famously not a detective, so he quests with that Judy Hopps. He's not going to be able to get Prince Philip, which is one of the reasons that I heard players say they don't love the detective build, because one of their big goals is that control piece. Judy does not get you closer to Clarabelle. Judy does not get you closer to Prince Philip. So it can be one of those things where it helps you in the middle of the game, but at the end, she's not getting you any of those pieces you need to win.
Yeah, we are going to get a little closer, though, to game 2 here. Jordan just seeing not be able to pull it out with that 1 card, so we are going to go on to game 2 here. JD taking game 1, and we'll see if Jordan now can claw his way back and force a game 3. And so it's interesting. We know both players kind of on the detectives package here. Don't know if their lists are identical, but clearly they've chosen to work those Judy Hopps in. Did we see Cinderella at all?
No, I thought I did at one point, but it was a hallucination of me just remembering that time I pulled one and I was like, this is the greatest card. But don't worry, don't worry, her time's coming. Princess deck is always on the horizon. But here we go. We are doing the altar phase, which is very tricky here because, like we said, in this deck, the traditional build, the more control aspect, there's kind of 2 rows you go. You want to go towards the Clarabelle, where you're trying to make sure you have your Clarabelle, you shift, and you're matching and drawing that hand size, or you're doing that Prince Philip shift line. In this case, it is a mirror match, so they are keeping that in mind. Obviously, JDZ saw the benefits of having those your welcomes early in the game. So we went ahead, sent back 4 cards on Jordan's side. JD already looks like he is doing his altar phase, or sorry, his altar phase right now. Oh, he sent back all but 1.
All but 1. So here, interesting, kind of an indicator. Perhaps he's missing ramp.
Exactly, because I mean, really, when you see someone with an aggressive altar like that, if they're sending back more than a couple cards, they're saying, I'm missing the critical things to make my deck work the way it needs to. And then this is going to be some kind of maybe early presence, like a shift for Clarabelle or Prince Philip, but ramp. I mean, it is the name of the game, and that is anything that's going to allow you to ink 1 extra per turn. A lot of times it does it twice. In this case, both of them are needing to do it at least once, but it is definitely a race to see who can have access to those powerful combos. The more ink, the better with these, because they have a lot of things they want to pull off in 1 turn.
Yeah. And this mirror is just so fascinating because even if there were different packages, what the Clarabelle, like the 2-4-6 combo wants to do is play a high resource game with big hand sizes to kind of like have Clarabelle do these big swings. The Detectives package is perfectly comfortable in a low resource game where hand sizes are low, using the Judy Hopps to kind of refill when you're top decking. So it would be really interesting to watch a mirror where they were on different packages, but here both decks comfortable in both the high or the low resource game. And yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out. No turn 1 play from Jordan there. Inking, going to develop your brain to take a look. He'll draw 2 cards, pick 1 to keep in hand, send 1 to the bottom of the deck, and back over to JD for his turn 1.
Yeah, you're going to hear us talk a lot today about filtering, which is a term we like to use where basically you're trying to look at your deck and say, I need the good cards. I need the cards I need for this specific matchup. Because in this game, you have access to all the cards in your deck, and what you're trying to do is find the ones you need for the person you're sitting across from. So filtering allows you to either draw and discard, draw a couple cards and pick one. So visions, develop. You might see like Bobby Zamaruski in the Dogs matchup. These are cards that allow you to get to the cards you need later. So that's what that develop is doing. It's just investing in your future.
I love that. Basil, undercover detective here, heading to the inkwell. No turn 1 from play from JD either. Last game, both players either establishing either a Basil or a Clarabelle. This turn, both empty boards. And we are going to hit the ramp turn here. We'll see which one. We're going to do Sail the Azurite Sea. That'll draw Jordan a card, and he will ink an extra card this turn.
Yeah, another detective here. That disguised detective is fascinating because he really is taking advantage of the full suite, the detective family, if you will, for a low price of 6 ink. And it's very, very fascinating that these detectives are kind of, people go through, what I've heard is I talked to somebody out there that said, I went through and looked at every single detective and just see, which ones can I fit in here, gang? But there we go. We're seeing some kind of, I would call it painful ink choices. We have the Sale of the Azurite Sea, but he did get to go ahead and ink one of his Malicious, Mean, and Scary. That being said, JD didn't have a turn 1. We know turn 2 he's probably going to want a ramp. So if it's a situation where JDZ misses this ramp or doesn't deploy a character here, then not having that board wipe is not as scary as it would be if you're playing a deck that goes wide. But here we go. He is inking which a TPO, which is some of that ramp card. So there we go.
Sail the RJT. So JD drawing card again will ink an extra card this turn. Both players choosing not to establish that body and ink out of hand, rather doing the hand neutral thing of drawing and inking. And a Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman here is heading to the inkwell.
Perfect Gentleman for Daisy, who is Donald's date here, but she's not in this matchup. But there we go, a detective, Basil. Basil, this is actually Basil. I don't know why they don't call this Basil in front company when it's detective decks. But either way, he is here to add that support ability, which has been pretty nice. We've seen it. It was very, very popular in Sapphire Amethyst. But either way, he's a detective. He adds that synergy for duty and helps that hit rate. And if anything, if it comes out to challenging, he's going to add you that support.
Also serves as that shift target now for that Floodborn Basil if you're running it, which we saw earlier. So kind of a little bit of a threat there on the board. And we will follow with a double ramp again by Jordan. This is the same move last game, ramping 2 turns in a row. Ramping 3 turns, that's a triple ramp. So now the resource disparity here, clearly on full display. Emptying his hand, probably down to 1 card, I think. But look at that 6 ink on the board to JDZ's 3. The rare triple ramp play. What turn are we on? 3?
Yeah, that was I don't know, game 1 or turn 500. But yeah, I mean that is very rare in this game. But that kind of forces JD here to go. Okay, I can double ramp. I'll double ramp. Maybe can he triple ramp here? In this case, he goes ahead and sails the Azurite Sea to go ahead and get that extra ink. Now, the big question is sometimes people talk about, do you want to play Tipo? Do you want to play Sail? Obviously, Tipo is a body, but he doesn't do much after that. But Sail allows you to have you draw a card with it, which is quite nice.
It does, but in this instance, I don't know what's in Jordan's hand.
No.
But if that is a Clarabelle, if that's a Clarabelle, if he draws an inkable off the top of his deck, he plays Clarabelle for full cost, and because he's managed to empty his hand with the Tipos, would benefit greatly from JD's hand size. JD keeping his hand neutral with the Sail the Azurite Seas.
Yeah, and saying, oh my gosh, I have to empty my hand size. Because as we know, once that Clarabelle's on the board, it becomes a feast. So we saw him go ahead, ink twice. He's playing a Vision of the Future. So he is going to be able to keep a card off this Vision of the Future, but he's probably just preparing for, response at this point. Because if he can go ahead and get the resources he needs, if he knows that Clarabelle's coming, it's fine. Jordan can go ahead. We know that JDZ has access to a bend to my will. So, but to your point though, it could be a game match here for the card draw situation, which he has passes with 3 cards in hand, I believe, for JD.
And let's see, looking for an inkable perhaps. Does he have that Clarabelle? That Basil will go down immediately, turning 7. Yes. It is the Clarabelle. So we saw the triple ramp into the Clarabelle. Jordan emptying his hand completely. Now he'll ask JD, how many cards in hand, sir?
Yes, that is everyone's favorite thing in a TCG is when someone goes, how many cards do you have in hand? And you just want to go, why?
Why do you want to know?
Yeah, and it could be for a myriad of reasons. In this case, it could be for drawing. It could be for discarding. In this case, Clarabelle. It happens at the end of your turn. So what happens is you go ahead and say, end of turn, I draw for Clarabelle. And you go ahead and say, how many cards do you have? That's how many cards I have. What a coincidence. And then you pass over.
Yeah, feels pretty bad. So Jordan there taking benefiting from that Clarabelle, drawing 4 cards. Any card that draws you 4 cards feels pretty good.
Exactly, especially after investing so much resources in the triple ramp gauntlet here. So JDZ is responding here. We're going to go ahead and get that warded Prince Philip on the board.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not all Sapphire Emerald decks run the Prince Philip. I think it is a shift target there. It sits on the board. It does have ward, as you said, so it can't be chosen by your opponents. But it does allow you to cheat out that Prince Philip early. So it'll be sitting there threatening that board wipe.
Now, one thing I think that's interesting about Ward is we talk about Malicious, Mean, and Scary combo being a board wipe option, but Ward is one of those things where it's targeted. So if he does that Malicious, Mean, and Scary, you're placing a damage on all, and if it's not targeting just one, he would be impacted by that impediment, and then also if his older partner, Vanquisher foe comes on, then also that goes around Ward. So Ward is a very interesting thing. In a board wipe meta, it becomes a little less valuable, but in this case, we're not seeing him moving towards that combo, but with that much ink on board, with 7 right now, he can do a lot of devious deeds.
Yeah, let's see what he has in store. One other note for the Prince Philip, it does also cost 3, so it serves as a singer for that Malicious, Mean, and Scary, so it opens up that combo.
Yes, which is a very fun thing to see where Prince Philip sings Malicious, Mean, and Scary, like, don't do that, and then he shifts, and you're like, oh, Philip, why would you do that? But it is very fun. Shifting and singing are two of my favorite mechanics in the game, because it's really showing the economy that you can get as much value as you can with the cards you have, and you're able to do just a ton of things. This match in particular can go kind of lengthy, because basically they get to the point where they're just able to do a lot of stuff. In this case, he says, I want to do more. What else can I do here? In developing his brain.
Is Jordan here looking perhaps for some combo pieces, something else to establish a strong board presence?
Yeah, he wants to go ahead and finalize the dominant position here against JD's deck. He has more ink for now. So in this case, we have just some little guys here. It doesn't look like he has any of the giant kind of scary stuff that you're trying to ramp to, the kind of end game of control decks. So let's go ahead and see what he does with the rest of his ink. He's only exerted 1 ink right now. Another Clarabelle, but that. All right, we're gonna go a little further. We can get a vision.
Take a little further. And it is such a tricky position here because JD is threatening the sing shift board clear line, and so on the one hand, you don't want to commit too many resources to the board. On the other hand, if you keep a strong hand size and that board clear is followed up by a Clarabelle and JD managing to empty his hand, you're punished for having a large hand. So in these matchups against a Sapphire Emerald deck, there's this sub-game of hand manipulation. And it's about manipulating your own hand and your opponent's hand so you can gain maximum advantage from those Clarabelles. And so both players constantly thinking about how various moves will affect the cards remaining in their hand at the end of the turn.
And then one of the other things that I think is when you watch control matches, you're like, so much is going on. But then if I covered up everything but the lore count, you'd be like, so nothing's happened, right?
Nothing's happened.
But everything's happened because basically they've been laying this foundation for the master end game where they're trying to make sure that, like you said, their hand size, nobody has it too big or too small. Clarabelle basically is a mind game. You're trying to say, well, I need cards. Card draw is one of the most important parts of the game. But they're like, but I don't want you to draw cards, as they point at their opponent. So in this case, he has that Clarabelle. He does have one of those Prince Philip Royal Explorer here, but he is going to get a Clarabelle down in the inkwell. And what's he up to? I don't know. That's my favorite part. Oh, is that a bend? No. This is our favorite part. We get to see the same thing you guys see, so we're always like just going, is that what I think it is?
And both of us always are tilting our
Yes, you guys can't see that.
Over to see, and
yes.
Physics doesn't work that way.
No, I think it's like I'm looking inside and I'm trying to put my head around, but there we go. He's going to go ahead and just say, I don't think you're going to wipe my board. Because in this case, like we said, that Prince Philip Royal Explorer that he just played on the board, it would not get around the Malicious, Mean, and Scary Prince Philip shift combo. But it is a board presence, and here we go. This is what you hate to see.
Prince Philip, Malicious, Mean, and
He's
Scary.
already...
He's putting 1 damage. Don't even put the damage counters on, because
yes.
Here's the shift. Jordan knowing what's coming, wiping the board here. There's that combo. Who needs to be prepared, Baker, when you can do it with 2 cards? Malicious, Mean, and Scary Prince Philip clearing the board. Now JDZ all of a sudden feels like he's in the driver's seat, where Jordan was clearly in control earlier with the ink advantage and the board presence. So it's back over to Jordan for his response.
And I'm thinking he is saying, Hades, can you please come here? Can you help me with some infernal schemes? And that is because we talk about board wipes. You hear us say it, and it's one of those things we try to describe what it is for people. But board wipes is what you just saw. He wiped that board. And what it is it just allows you, we used to have a card, Be Prepared, that went ahead and rotated out with the printing of Fabled. And that was one where you go ahead and get rid of all the characters on the board. But now we have one-sided board wipes, which we've always had, but this is one that has been one of the more efficient board wipes we've seen in a while, and we see why it's so frustrating, because now Jordan has to do 2 things. He has to come back into this game and respond, which is hard to do both at the same time, but Hades is a card that could get a little bit of that revenge, knowing that Prince Philip does quest for 3, but no, this is another form.
You wipe my board, I'll wipe your hand, sending
yes.
everything down there. Jordan saying, what do you got there? And we did see JD send away a bend to my will of his own, which is notable because sometimes these decks only run 1. Sometimes 2, but oftentimes only 1, trying to find it in the mirror here. So that could be JD's only 1 there, now in the discard pile. So nothing done on the board, but now JD in top deck mode. And, drawing into another Philip, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's not the worst thing you're ever going to see. So he can go ahead and get that 4 lore with these 2 questing here. But as far as ink count, he does have just 6. So that means he cannot play that Prince Philip at that full cost of 9, which is why we saw that triple ramp that we saw from Jordan was something he prioritized. Ramp is very, very important because more ink, more access. So now we might see the tables turn, and this is why control decks are fascinating because you were controlling your opponent. In this case, we're going to go ahead and get a Basil down on the board, which you can go ahead, and I believe this one is you pay to go ahead and discard.
Yeah, whenever you ink a card during your turn, you may pay 1 to have chosen opponent choose and discard a card.
Yeah, which against a person who is quite literally lost their hand, that is a pretty devastating thing. So Basil is there to kind of say, I'm going to make you discard a card, probably either way. In this case, it's not the worst thing, because I mean, right now JDZ is able to quest for a nice, cool 4 every turn, so he's slowly creeping up there, but things could turn very quickly if we see that Hades, if we see that combo piece. We do see, I'm trying to see what that middle card is.
Yeah, we have a Militia Machine Scary, we have a Clarabelle, and that one bottom one is kind of concealing itself. Jordan doing the 2-card shuffle there, leaving that 3rd card on the bottom.
Conceal, don't feel, but let it show.
Let it show.
Please, but here we go. It looks like we are going to go ahead and saying
that answers the question right there.
Yeah.
It's a you're welcome coming down here and sending that Prince Philip back to hand. Now we're going to cut, and JD's going to draw 2 cards. Now, if Jordan has not inked yet this turn, we'll be able to force JD to discard one of those cards if he chooses to go that route. But we are going to exert almost everything here to play the Clarabelle. So don't want to necessarily make your opponent discard if you're going to benefit from cards in hand. Although, well, never mind. We are going to see the discard. And now Jordan will draw 1, I believe, off that Clarabelle at end of turn.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where, yes, JDZ did get a card off of that, but he only has this simple Basil on the board. Now, we do talk about how you can ship, so that is something he has access to. He's kind of low on that ink, and he does know that Clarabelle's on board. Now, I do believe if that is an Undersea, that is an interest. I don't know.
I think it's a John Silver.
Oh.
I think, which would be a very...
Yeah, one of the things. Oh,
no, it's a perfect job. Oh, like, see, we're glancing. No, it was not even close. It was not even.
It was a card though, and that's, I think, honestly, we had a 1 in 100 chance. But there we go. So this is not necessarily what you want to see. He is emptying his hand because he's saying, you know what, I'm tired of you benefiting off of the pain you have caused me in my deck here. So this Clarabelle, she has a nice benefit. She can destroy. She can go ahead and target and banish an item if you go ahead and pay when she comes into play. However, there's no items here. So here we go. I'm Malicious, Mean, and Scary, and putting that 1 damage here, which is enough to get rid of Basil just on the spot, and 1 damage on the Clarabelle. And yeah, JD's feeling the pressure.
And both players, like the tempo here, the beatdown roll shifting back and forth, and he top decks a Clarabelle here, which is huge in this scenario. Jordan, I believe, has a couple cards in hand at least, so Clarabelle at the very least replacing herself, and there she is at full cost. Clarabelle light on her hooves, and now JD's going to ask the question: how many cards in hand, Jordan?
And the answer was none.
The answer was none, so not benefiting at all, but still a powerful body, and now Jordan will be punished for keeping any cards in hand. So let's see what Jordan has here. And this is fascinating, like the tempo swinging back and forth as both players on top. It's a Clarabelle light on her hooves on the other
stampede!
side.
Everybody!
Cows. We have so many cows on the board.
Yeah, this is what you would call a certified stampede of Clarabelle here. And like we said, I mean, one of the benefits of Clarabelle is that she has that draw engine. But you know what? She's also a 5/6, and she also quests for 2. So she's a nice, sturdy bovine here. And so she's able to be on the board, build that board presence. So now we're looking at the time clock where we have 7. So we do have game on board for Jordan.
Yeah, JD will have to find an answer for something here. Visions of the Future will help you do that. Looking at the top 5 cards again, he'll manage to find something, but not enough cards in hand. Like he could find, he doesn't have the shift target for the Philip either, so not able to pursue that combo this turn. And so we'll have to answer the board the hard way with that Clarabelle, or perhaps you're welcome to kind of slow things down. But JD really, really wants to buy time to find both cards he needs to wipe Jordan's board. That would allow him to stay in this game. What is he going to pick right now to help him do that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where Visions, it's so funny. I've seen some of the fastest Visions in my life where people just see and they slap it on the board. In this case, he was very measured about it. Because like we said, he has to be careful. He has one very delicate Clarabelle here with 1 damage on her. And we have a more substantial 5/6. So we can do some challenging and possibly use a Malicious, Mean, and Scary to do a little bit of put some damage. In this case, the challenging is just enough there to go ahead and take out that Basil.
Yeah, JD trying to decide whether he's going to protect that. He's not. He's going to put 1 damage counter on that cow, and you're seeing that setup.
I know, and that's right, because I mean, it takes something where if it's a pretty inexpensive card, if you have that Malicious, Mean, and Scary where you can go ahead and sing it, and so it could be investment here. In this case, he goes ahead and passes. Now that Clarabelle is feeling very vulnerable because now all she needs is 2 damage on it. That being said, Jordan wants to quest. He wants to finish. So he has to do that clock of like, how bad would it be if my board got wiped and I was a little greedy here and quested for 5? Is there anything I can do? A Hades would be quite nice if you could get that Infernal Schemer. I love that card. I keep hoping for it. I don't even know if I've seen it, but that would be a good answer here. But here we go.
It's a nice little damage hit because it does make it step with the Clarabelle. No,
this is also quite nice.
Very nice. Sending
Yes.
that back to hand, and since it's shifted, JD now has 2 cards, so Jordan able to draw 2 off that Clarabelle.
Brutal, and that's why bouncing things back to the hand with Mother Knows Best and this Basil is fascinating, because things like You're Welcome, bouncing back to hand when you have a Clarabelle, it feels quite nice to go ahead and control the tempo of your opponent while also benefiting. So there we go. We do see a little bit of a payoff where he is able to do a spot removal, but
ultimately not enough, and JD not able to keep it. And you know, wiping here, if you're just joining us, this is Jordan and JD. You know JD. Jordan is a local of JD's. They played in the set champs together last weekend, and so it's local on local here. And we will go on to a game 3. How exciting.
It is, and I mean, shout out to JDZ. JD is one of those players that he's a player, he's a caster, he's a streamer, and he is very, very open about how he prepares for these tournaments. And I think that's so fascinating, because it's going to this tournament, as we talked about, when we all picked, except for me and you, different decks, because it is kind of a meta where you do have to pick what you think is best position in the room. And so I'm very fascinated to see that he brought Detectives, because this is not something he lightly picked. But we were in that altar phase. We do see Jordan having that Under the Sea. That was a card that we talked about heavy on Inkables, where it's very expensive and maybe not pay off. That is a card that doesn't really pay off in this matchup most of the time. So I feel like Jordan's thinking about the full send back. Right? No, maybe not. I don't. Maybe it's full keep. But that Under the Sea, one thing to note, sometimes if you have a clunky on Inkable, you can go ahead and get rid of it. Not get rid of it, but use Tipo to ink something that maybe you won't need. But in this case, you do want to don't go for the hand that you want, go for the hand you deserve. He'll send back 2 and try to get some more better items to pair here.
Absolutely. And this is so exciting, Katie. Like, thanks for joining us this weekend. If you're just coming in, we are going into game 3 here of round 1. It's JD's Quest and Jordan. And you know, Katie, my favorite saying, one of my favorite sayings, at least I say it all the time, is we never root for players, but we always root for a game 3 as
we
commentators.
do.
Everything's on the line. And we're going to see a game 3 here in round 2. Look at JD. He's such a clown.
You just saw JDZ go. I keep calling him JDZ because I'm reading. But he's going, Lore Guide, which I said today. I heard somebody out. Me and Liam were walking, and we saw someone raise their hand and go, Lore Guide, and I was like, oh, I like that very, very much. But here we go. We see JDZ locking in as he is copyright patent pending. He is going ahead and picking his final 7 cards for this game 3. Round 1 of the Disney Lorcana Challenge here in Richmond, Virginia. So this starts some momentum for the rest of the day, right? Because I mean, honestly, I've seen players that they keep incrementally getting that momentum higher and higher and using that to be better and better. So very exciting. And shout out to Jordan for playing against, somebody that we all know and love here, but they've played before. So that's kind of quite nice, right?
Yep. Two good friends here throwing down in round 1. What are the odds in the 2,000 person tournament?
It seems like 100% when you talk to people out there. They're always like, I traveled 100 miles only to get paired against a person I live in the same house as. But in this case, they live in the same city. But here we go. We got a You're Welcome going down into the Inkwell, and Jordan here making his first inky decision, which can sometimes be the hardest decision of the game.
Absolutely. Nothing being played there. Back over to Jordan for his turn 1. We see that Donald Duck head into the Inkwell. There are turn 1 options here. We'll see if Jordan chooses to reserve it. He does not get that Clarabelle established on the board. She has that shift target. It's back over to JD for his turn 2. And we do see the ramp, so likely to see that played here immediately. And we can get on with the game now that the ramp
I know,
hit.
yeah, right? It's so funny because sometimes I say, like, well, we start commentating in Game 3, because really it's like, do you got it? And like I said, this is a deck where I've heard players say that they can stabilize a little bit, not against aggro, but in this case, they are both playing that control style deck. In this case, he can go ahead and do an extra ink this turn. Now, this one, it does have to be inkable. That's something that players sometimes get a little bit confused on, is this additional card from your hand into your inkwell. Tipo, it's any card. Sale it has to be an inkable card, which is an important thing to note. But in this case, he just have to decide, what do you want to ink, because it's hard. He seems to like all his cards quite a lot.
Yeah, so let's see which way JD gets to go here. We are inking that extra card. Nothing to the board again. That Basil heading out in there, and back over to Jordan for his turn 2. Jordan going to get a little quest there. Why not? Get that free lure. Sometimes it makes all the difference. And now we're likely to see a ramp from him here too. Which one will it be?
And one of the things that we talk about with this inking in the earlier, sometimes it can be so easy to look at something that costs 7 and be like, that's 500 years from now. I'll just go ahead and ink it. But it can feel bad because we know that that's how you win the game, is with these critical control aspects where you get that card draw. So in this case, he does have to go ahead and get that Basil Disguise Detective into the inkwell. But he's sailing. He's sailing those Azurite Seas, and what is he going to find here?
Let's see, Basil. Down to the inkwell here and back over to JD. Those Basils there, convenient ink here in the early game. JD, I'm so interested to know which way he's.
And here we go.
We are on the double ramp.
I love sailing the Azurite Sea. I'd like to sail. I think those as a sail signed by Sailor, which is one of the players you guys saw this morning on our 30 players we picked for the fantasy draft.
Yeah, he's on my team. No big deal.
Oh, okay. Someone might have drafted him. We don't know. But either way, he's sailing the Azurite Sea with Sailor here, making sure he gets those assets, because as we saw, the person who has more cards, more control, is having a better time usually. So in this case, he is going to go ahead and try to win that resource race here, knowing that that Clarabelle shift is something he fears. He's going to go ahead and ink his own Clarabelle, and let's see what he does if this remaining ink he has.
Yeah, both players very, very deliberate here. It is game 3. They've got 15 minutes left. We are going to see that, I think, Under the Sea sent to the inkwell. And now back over to Jordan. So double ramp from JD. That's something we saw Jordan do multiple games in a row. We'll see if Jordan follows suit here. I do see a Tipo in hand, so.
I think I see Bend to My Will again.
Oh,
I feel like I do.
Jordan's hand.
I thought I saw, yeah, it's in JDZ's hand, which is critical because, I mean, at the end of the day, doing nothing feels bad, but doing nothing and then completely taking away your opponent's game plan feels a little bit better. So it's kind of knowing the limits of your control and what you can come back from, and that's why these mirror matches can be fascinating, because like we said, they're doing so much and so little at the same time. They're preparing for this extreme battle, and so you just see one little Clarabelle out there by herself. We're seeing the double ramp. We're seeing them saying, I have to win this war, and the heat is on. It's just the pressure is mounting each time.
And a really clunky card to have in your hand in the early game. You don't often like to have it, but if you can ramp hard into it and dump your opponent's hand in the mirror, like right away, you basically win that game oftentimes. So possible he kept it on the mulligan, possible he found it later, but obviously would love to pursue a line where he ramps into that and manages to jump Jordan's hand, unless Jordan can establish a Clarabelle, which would be really good for him.
And I think he knows that Your Welcome's his #1 goal here, because, I mean, that's why that Clarabelle, she's either going to get Your Welcomed or she was going to live or go ahead and survive.
6 ink, Katie.
Okay. All right.
7 ink on the next turn.
All right. So that means there might be some wills being bent, so we need to see what Jordan has in hand, because it is now both players have access to the devastation. So things that can happen right now. Clarabelle could shift. JDZ does not have the most robust hand in the world, and he is eagerly looking to dump as much as he can. That being said, if he plans on playing Bend to My Will, then maybe he's not as scared of what Jordan's up to over there. In this case, he's going to go ahead and ink one more time, like you said, getting to that 7 ink and saying, go ahead. What are you going to do? What do you have?
All sorts of options open to JD now. He has that Bend to My Will in hand. That will likely come down next turn if Jordan manages to. Yeah, it'll likely come down next turn, especially if Jordan has a healthy hand. But I do see the Clarabelle in hand, Katie.
And that is generally good. But in this case, if we know there's a Bend to My Will, it's a little less good, because he can go ahead and, because as that card draw happens, it's going to be at the end of your turn. So he can say how many cards in hand and go ahead and draw. But then that might be the last time you see those cards. So he has.
But the downside is, if JD spends his entire turn spending 7 ink dumping the hand and that Clarabelle is still established, she rebuilds your hand immediately.
That's such a good point. It is not a board. My brain is like, it wipes everything. But no, you're right. In this case, it's going to just get rid of his access. So he has to pick between two kind of competing goals here.
Clear the board or clear the hand.
Now, Donald, he can sing. He could possibly.
Oh, You're Welcome into a Bend. It would be brutal.
So
absolutely brutal.
We'll see. We'll see what he has access to. I'm looking here and trying to think what other devious thing. This deck is one of my favorite. Controls decks in general are fascinating because it is truly about, but you forgot about. But Donald is a 5-cost card. Your Welcome is 4, so he could sing that. And like you said, at that point, you bounce that. You don't care how many cards they have. But Jordan could be playing around it. In this case, he's just going to go all in. He's going to say, I don't know, I have to do this. So Is that an under the sea in there?
Yeah, it might be, but nevertheless, that Clarabelle is going to come in and shift. Quest for 2 here, sending Jordan up to 4. Now trying to decide whether this TPO is going to go as well. Just doing the math here.
Yeah, and sometimes you get to that point where you're like, listen, if I turn this TPO sideways, this could be the last time I do it. But then you also are like, listen, he might be doing a malicious, mean, and scary Prince Philip combo. He might be bending me well. I don't know what this man is about to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and get that one lore and just hope that I go ahead and turn this corner, or survive the corner, rather, here in this Game 3. So here we go. We have what we need to go ahead and do a bend to my will, but like you said, he can't do everything. He only has that 7 ink. I do not see your welcome. Okay, so he goes ahead and he deploys his Clarabelle here.
I think that Clarabelle probably messes up the plan. I honestly think if Clarabelle wasn't in play, JD empties the hand there, but that Clarabelle there is insurance against that. Obviously, Jordan will get to top deck and then draw again at the end of his next turn. So JD instead establishing some board presence and trying to I don't know, push the game a little bit more, keeping that bend to my will in reserve. That Clarabelle, I think, messed up everything he was trying to do.
Yeah, and we talk about the mental part of the TCG experience, and some of it is sometimes you go, okay, I mean, you have 7 cards, you exerted 7, what are you going to do? And then you see Clarabelle come down, and so there is a tiny part of you that thinks, well, maybe that means they don't have it, but then they also, this is a mirror match, so they're in each other's heads and pretending to be both decks at the same time. We do see in Jordan's hand, he has access to more Clarabelle, which adds the pressure here and says, you'd have to get rid of 2 now. So can you do a Prince Philip, Malicious Mean and Scary combo, and Bend to My Will? Can you do it all? Can you? And it's not easy. So we're going to go ahead and see how he responds. He has 2 singers on board. He does go ahead and Jordan is able to draw cards at the end of turn. But now, ooh, we do see a Mother Knows Best, which could be a good thing with the Bend of My Will. Because if he can go ahead and return one of these Clarabelles to hand, then and then play that Bend of My Will, then that is gone. But we do see that second Clarabelle, so kind of an insurance here. But we also know that we now see a You're Welcome in Jordan's hand, which You're Welcome, like we saw, is a great tool to go ahead and take advantage of those Clarabelle. So yeah, it's very interesting. The cow, I've never seen this many Clarabelle having a dance-off. It is a dance floor dance-off here.
Yeah, a herd of cows dancing out there with a couple of T-pose in support. JD now trying to think about these lines. You'd love to clear the board. You've got the hand clear, but that board is so threatening right now. And those Clarabelles, again, insurance against that discard. So JD trying to figure out what's the way back in here.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about at the beginning of the game, there's, like we said, there's 2 big cornerstones in this deck. The Detectives adds a middle one of just, having characters. But in this case, you have that Clarabelle to draw cards, and you have your Prince Philip for that Malicious, Mean, and Scary board wipe combo. So he has to decide. Now, that Under the Sea is a card that is fantastic in more aggressive matchup. Now, ironically, Under the Sea.
Hand.
Yeah, Under this, we talked about that earlier, right? The cards that are expensive, uninkable, you just go, oh, and Under the Sea and Bend to My Will are 2 of those cards where when you need them, they're the most wonderful cards in the world. So light as a feather. But when you don't want them, you're like, can you please? Any card but this.
Yeah, JD, I think, considering singing Mother Knows Best there, deciding against it for the moment. Really just trying to think through these lines here. There are options available. You can challenge in that double challenge in that Clarabelle if you want. Mother Knows Best can bounce something else. You can sing it with the Donald. There's all sorts of options. If you're really feeling, I don't know, squirrely, you could Under the Sea. No, you can't actually, because you don't have the ink and you don't have the inkables.
Yes.
But there it is. I played for cost, not sung. Mother Knows Best there, not exposing that Donald, that Clarabelle, sending that shifted Clarabelle back to hand. So that's 2 more cards in Jordan's hand, and there's not much else JD can do with what he has in his hand.
Well, he could sing Under the Sea.
He could sing Under the Sea.
And
there it is.
66%, 66.67%.
Yep.
He does it. And that is one of those times where, is that the best use of Under the Sea we've ever seen in our life? I mean,
No.
in this case, kind of.
But effective in this scenario. Getting that 2 lore off the board. Also, they can pair with Clarabelle to sing. No big benefit there, but yeah,
it's something.
Getting those off the board, getting those lore off the board feels pretty good. So you're doing that control, and now JD just a little bit of breathing room here.
Exactly. And I mean, he's using his resources. He's doing what he can with the cards he has, knowing that if he can get towards that Bend to My Will combo, that would be that Bend to My Will or a board wipe. Board wipe is a little less intense now because there's only 1 character, but we see Jordan here with a very, very full hand of cards. It's almost like the game just started with how many cards these players have in their hand. So here we go. He's making that decision. He has access to You're Welcome, which, like we have seen, that can go ahead and make it where he can draw more cards, get rid of that Clarabelle. But as we have also seen, you don't want your opponent in this matchup, in a control matchup, to have more cards. It generally just feels bad. So challenging it is.
Speaking of control, Jordan doing a little bit of control there, not questing the Clarabelle, instead sending it in to clear up that Donald Duck. Donald Duck, a decent quester on his own, but also can do some damage and also can sing as well, so that feels pretty good. And Jordan, again, left with plenty of ink to establish a healthy board, and bouncing that Clarabelle back to JDZ's deck now will give JD 2 cards, but Jordan will benefit if JD's hand is over certain, and it is pretty healthy. So JD another couple cards, Jordan likely to benefit here, able to dump some more cards out of his hand. He can ink with the Tipo as well, so able to get his hand even down smaller to benefit from that Clarabelle. So Jordan with a very good turn here.
Yeah, he is able to go ahead and manage the board here, getting another Clarabelle. Obviously, having those Clarabelles have been great insurance for him. He knows, I mean, he doesn't know there's a Bend to My Will, but he knows that there's a Bend to the Will in the deck. And so that Bend to My Will is just ever present. The more Clarabelles he's able to deploy, the more, as we've seen, it's made it very unsavory for JDZ to do it because, like you said, he can build back pretty quickly after that. He has access to so much ink here. It looks like he has 12, let's see, 5 plus 5, at least 10 ink here. So, but on JDZ's side, he only he had 7, which is a lot of ink, but the economy is not in his favor. So he does have to decide what route do I want to go.
And here, JDZ, there's decent hand size. Jordan, by the way, drew 5 cards off that Clarabelle, I think, last turn, which is
incredible.
Pretty powerful. JD here, lower on resources and decent hand size, though. We'll see what he manages to do. There's just a lot to deal with. Ideally, he wants to establish a couple singers, so one sticks around till next turn, so we can do the combo we keep talking about. But
yeah, we're like, you know what you could do? And he's like, yeah, I'd like to do it if I could get a breath here. So he is going to go ahead and say, what? Yeah, because oftentimes they want to see a discard pile because they're saying, statistically speaking, what am I dealing with here? What have you already played? What have we already seen? That's why keeping in track of what your opponent is inking is vital, and why ramping, when it's a blind ramp where they don't have to show you, is fascinating because you kind of lose track of a couple cards. But here we go. This is one of the combo pieces and also just a nice quester on his own. We have a Prince Philip coming down.
And that Prince Philip with its ward looms large here. I mean, we've seen the combo before. Prince Philip can sing Malicious, Mean, and Scary and shift all in one turn, so you want it to stick around. Jordan with plenty of answers for single characters with cards like You're Welcome and Mother Knows Best, but not able to choose that warded Philip. So a card that is likely to stick around till next turn. And just for insurance, we're going to Clarabelle there that can also shift.
I think I see another Under the Sea in his hand, which is, this is like one of the, maybe not, maybe I'm hallucinating, because we see those uninkable symbols, but I mean, man, that Bend to My Will has been in his hand, I think, since like turn 4. But like you said, he's got insurance here. He's basically saying that, like, oh, I don't think you'll get rid of both. And this gives me both plans, right? We talked about the Clarabelle pillar. We have the Prince Philip pillar. We do have a lore guide going ahead and moving that ink to say, how much ink do you got? And the answer is a lot. Yeah, we do have access here to a total of 10 ink on Jordan's side. So he just has to decide. And there we go. I see a Hades Infernal Schemer. I knew I saw one. I knew I didn't make it up.
One in here, right?
Exactly. Now that Hades Infernal Schemer cannot scheme against Prince Philip, which is why that ward comes kind of handy.
Yeah, we'll see which way Jordan chooses to go here, knowing, of course, that combo is probably likely next turn at this point in the game. So developing his brain here, going wide is going to be dangerous. So Jordan just figuring out, how much do I need to put on the board to draw out that combo and then be able to rebuild afterwards. And to be honest, 2 Clarabelles is probably enough to draw it out. So we'll see.
It's difficult because, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes in these games, you lose because you don't do things because you're afraid. You have to kind of, they say, play to your outs. You have to play to basically what you're able to do. Another thing to note, this is a control mirror match, which means we have 2 minutes and 28 seconds left in this round. We do go to turns. You get 5 turns once you hit that time. Whoever's on goes to time at that turn. They get to finish their turn, and then they do their 5 turns. So that's all on their mind. Basically, they're saying, I need to play around my opponent. I need to play around the clock. As far as a draw, it's not the worst thing to happen, but I mean, you want to win. That's the goal, generally speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. A draw is not ideal. It's better than a loss, but not ideal. And you want to finish your game. You don't like to not finish a game.
Exactly. So, I mean, when we talk about these tournaments, it's all based on points. If you win, you get 3. If you go ahead and draw, you get 1. If you lose, you get 0. So, like I said, if you get a draw, you have a point. You're on the board, but you definitely, it's not the energy you want. In this case, if he's able to navigate this and that way manage JDZ's hand size and or board, he could go ahead and keep questing. But I just think knowing that that Bend to My Will could be around any corner is devastating, because he just knows whatever's in his hand. He has 2 Hades Infernal Spears. He's got a You're Welcome. He has to use those as carefully as possible.
Oh, interesting here. It looks like we are going to play You're Welcome on the Clarabelle, the only viable target other than his own characters. But that'll give JD a couple more cards. That'll trigger those Clarabelles a couple more times. So at this point, Jordan now indicating he's going to try to draw as many cards as possible off that Clarabelle. Will probably... Well, there's just not a lot more to dump on the board there. Take a look at the hand. I mean, there's very expensive Hades there. And maybe not much more to be done.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead, pay 3 ink to get his own awarded Prince Philip to just kind of threaten that combo piece and at least have another piece to quest for 2. In this case, he went ahead and he paid for, you can sing a song or you can play it as an action. In this case, he did not have one of the Clarabelles sing it. In this case, he valued getting that 2 lore on board because he knows he can't win by being conservative here. He has to be as aggressive as possible. So in this case, he goes ahead and says, well, you can't really probably do the Prince, well, you can't do the Prince combo and empty my hand. You pick. I'm going to go ahead and get 4 lore. Next turn, I can get 6. What are you going to do here?
And unfortunately, you know, ideally, JD would love to, at this point, slam that Malicious Mean and Scary, shift that Prince Philip. I think he has one, but not the other. I don't see Malicious Mean and Scary in hand. So JD now trying to figure out how to navigate this without being able to wipe the board. Under the Sea is not going to do it. There's not a ton of options there, and I don't see much targeted removal either. So
yeah, and so like
you're welcome, but
you have to pick your path here. We do see that timer head to 0. So as we know, JDZ will be able to go ahead and finish up this turn, and then it becomes a battle of, can I win? The answer is JDZ can likely not win at this point. So can he prevent Jordan from winning? And Jordan saying, can I win? So that's what the game kind of turns to once you go to turn. So there's a chance. I'm not like a master statistician. JDZ could possibly go ahead and shift and quest. But I mean, he only at this point, he has the chance to control the board 3 times, including this time right here.
And one thing I will note too, sometimes it is possible sometimes the stream timer is off from the actual
True, that's a good point.
Because it does tick, and if there are judge calls or judge discussions between rounds, sometimes judges will grant time extension. And so we see the timer at 0. It is likely that they'll be at turns at this point, but it is possible if you see them not on turns, it's possible that the stream timer is off. So just a note for the audience.
Fantastic point, because yeah, as we knew, there's lots of moving parts here. There's a timer for the room, but everybody is going to have, in this case, we do see the shift. He's doing what he can with what he has available to him, and he was able to go ahead and get that Prince Philip on board and then do some challenging.
Great play. I mean, you don't need to do the combo necessarily if you can do some damage with that Philip by himself. So shifting down to one of those characters is banished because it was damage, and then Prince Philip challenging in. That's doing it the hard way. Tipa will now come down in ink as well. So JD managed to clear some significant threats off the board. Now left with just that Prince Philip there. And now... Okay. So JD, I think Jordan reminding him that ink does come down exerted, so not available for you, which would have mattered, but nevertheless here we go, back over to Jordan's turn. We'll see what he has now to rebuild after losing those 2 cows, those draw engines.
In this case, he's still looking for answers. So he has access to a Hades, which would, in this case, get rid of Prince Philip, but as we know, he wants to win. He doesn't necessarily want to control. We're moving from control to win mode. So he has his vision of the future. He's looking at 5 cards. What are you seeing that's making you do that tonal sound here?
I see a card that JD has had in his hand all game. It hasn't been effective for him. I don't know if Jordan took it, but there is a Bend to My Will. That would feel particularly devastating right now if Jordan chose to use it. Now, it would be saying I'm sacrificing board this turn, potentially.
He's got a lot of cards here.
Oh, Prince Philip, we're going to shift that, take the board. That's going to banish the other Prince Philip because it is damaged, and now Prince Philip able to quest on his own, go up to 15. So Jordan just with answer after answer, but now there is only 1 character left on board unless he establishes something else, so JD has the ability to remove it with 1 card, Mother Knows Best, or You're Welcome perhaps. Likely to see more characters come on board here, though. Which ones will Jordan establish?
I mean, going wide here could be an option, and it looks like he's going to take that, because if he can get these little guys, because he doesn't have one person that can quest for a ton, but he can put out a lot of little guys that can turn into bigger guys with those shift mechanic. So Clarabelle can shift. He has played a lot of the Floodborn, light on her hoofs. Basil's another one that can shift. So he's saying, listen, I'm going to get what I need to win if I can. JDZ's doing the same math, because at this point he knows that bend to my will could come. So here we go. He passes. He has what he needs to win next turn if nothing happens. I imagine something will, but he's just trying to hedge his bets to see if he can go ahead and survive here.
And there's that malicious, mean, and scary just a little too late for that full combo. Because here's the thing, if that malicious, mean, and scary is in his hand last turn, that Prince Philip is not there to be shifted on. But he does have the You're Welcome, so we'll send that big questing Prince Philip back to the deck, both cards going back to the deck there, and Jordan will draw 2. So getting the biggest threat off the board, but those 2 smaller characters, there's one Lore Custer still there, threatening a couple lore next turn. JD would love to establish something else on board here. He has 5 ink remaining, so plenty to do it. So we'll see. It feels like he's trying to turn the corner here. And the thing about these decks, Katie, is you can wipe the board, you can wipe hands, and so it is possible, even if your opponent's at a very high lore total, to really swing things if you have the resources available to do it.
Yeah, it is so crazy. Malicious Mean and Scary very rarely does anything super cool, but it does do something pretty cool if you have something that only has that 1 willpower in it. So in that case, he was able to go ahead and completely get rid of a Basil with that Malicious Mean and Scary. So now we're looking at the time clock here. So we see Jordan signaling 2, but I think he means I get 2 turns left, right? So he's going to his second turn. I think he's confirming. That's what I'd bet. And so JDZ did a good job saying it's going to be hard for you to win this turn. So you can't, because basically he could shift this Clarabelle, which will be hard because we've seen him play 2 of those shifted Clarabelles already. But he has access to a lot of ink. So here we go. He's spreading out that ink, and we're going to see what he's up to and how he goes ahead and enables that win. He has 2 chances here to get to 20 lore. He's at 15.
Yeah, so many cards in hand, but JD now having established a decent ink total of his own. Not quite as much, but does have options available and some cards in hand, so it does feel kind of on a knife's edge here, but obviously Jordan with the edge here at 15 lore. Now, of course, since we are on times, players able to take their time, try to think things through.
Yeah, and saying what is the best way to do it. Because like we said, this game shifted. It went from being a control match to a race. Now it's still heavy control for JDZ because JDZ knows he has to control. Here we go.
Oh, there's some fun stuff there, though. I mean,
there's some fun stuff. Lots of fun stuff if you like this kind of thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's just so many options for Jordan, but it is fun to note that the Under the Sea in hand, not super impactful in this matchup. It's not in here for this
most of the time.
But here, you know, if Jordan wants to turn on the gas a little bit, well, we'll see turn on the gas, but Quest of the Clarabelle, establish another couple smaller characters, able to clear JD's board if he wants. There's also Hades for big bodies. There's just so many things he can do.
Yeah, and we're seeing, is he using a
JD's doing a little detecting there, just taking a look at the cards with a magnifying glass.
We love JD. He had a prop and he said, I shall use it now.
Wait for this moment.
To see what are you up to? And the answer is Jordan is, okay. All right, we like it. Jordan's like, I'm having the most stressful 5 seconds of my life. Can you not be silly? No, I'm just kidding. That is the giggle of a person who's played against JD before.
He knows.
He says, I've seen this before, and that's why we love him. But here we go. Jordan is trying to calculate what he can do to get to that 20.
Sometimes JDZ quests, sometimes JDZ investigates.
Yes, JDZ investigates. But there we go. That shows that shift Basil would have been quite nice, as we said. Both those characters on the board, Clarabelle and Basil, have a shift target. We'll go ahead. We're abandoning the control route. We're going to go and ink that Malicious, Mean, and Scary. He did pay the cost to go ahead and have JDZ do a discard. He said, whatever, I'll go ahead and get rid of this Under the Sea. Donald's up flat-footed detective here.
Yeah, establishing a wide board, putting game on board now, and now JD is going to have an answer. I was forced to discard here. Is JD top decking, I think?
Yes, he had 2 cards. He had those 2 very clunky, heavy cards of the Bend of My Will and Under the Sea, and he said, you know what, fine, get rid of them, because honestly, they've been very painful for me in this game, but yeah.
What a fantastic sequence. What a fantastic sequence. What a fantastic game. That is game 1. JDZ with a handshake there saying, hey, there's no way, I've got no answer. I drew the card off the top deck. It wasn't what I needed.